Welcome, and in this lesson, we're going to learn about AWS versioning and lifecycle policies in Amazon S3. So go ahead and open up your console and go into Amazon S3. Now, by default, lifecycle policies and versioning are disabled on a bucket. So we're going to continue using our Linux Academy test bucket, and we'll just select Properties. So now on our right-hand side, we have two options that we're going to work with. We have versioning, and we have lifecycle policies. Now, versioning and lifecycle policies can work together in order to create proper backup solutions with Amazon S3. Amazon S3 is a great backup solution. So, for example, if we go over and we enable lifecycle policies, let's go ahead and select Add a Rule. So what we see here is that it's saying this rule is going to apply to the entire bucket. We could say that we only want this rule to apply to a subfolder within the bucket. So it would be the bucket name / folder 1. Then I could add another rule that applied to folder 2. So if I had different policies from within a bucket, maybe one bucket is a finance bucket, and all the documents in there after 6 months, I want to send to archiving. But then maybe I have a temporary storage bucket, and everything after 6 months in there, after our backup policy with our company expires, our backup requirements with our company expires, I want to delete those automatically. So that's what lifecycle policy rules do. It allows us to use S3 as an effective backup and archiving solution. Again, what you need to be aware of is the way that AWS S3 works with backups is that you're going to want to use the regular S3 standard storage type if you're doing a backup policy, okay? You're not going to want to use archiving for backups. For backups, you want to have quickly, easily accessible stuff. And when you send stuff to archiving in Glacier, it does take a little while to check out. So your company might say, we need to maintain 6 months of backups. And after 6 months, we need to send those to Amazon Glacier. Or depending on the type of bucket that's being stored, after 6 months, we need to send those to the trash. So let's demonstrate this. Let's go inside of our bucket. Let's go ahead and create a new folder. We're going to call this folder Finance. Our next bucket, we're going to call Temp, just for temporary storage. Now, if we go back to our bucket properties by clicking the back option there to go to our root bucket listing, we go to our lifecycle and select Add Rule. So I want to specify it to my finance bucket. I want this rule to apply to all finances, all objects in my finance bucket. So we have the following options: do nothing, archive only. So archive only will change after the specified time period for our prefix, for our finance prefix, change the storage type to Amazon Glacier and archive it, which means it takes a little while to check in, takes a little while to check out. Permanently delete means after the specified time period, it's just going to delete the object permanently. And archive then permanently delete. This means we can actually set two policies. We can say after 2 months, send it to archiving, then 2 months after that, permanently delete it. So we have a complete life cycle policy for all of our objects. It takes away having to do a lot of hands-on management, and we can automate our entire backup and archiving policy with just lifecycle rules. So we're going to go ahead and select permanently delete. And so what it's going to do is it's going to ask for the number of days after the object's creation date. So if we were to say 1, this means the object would live within our finance folder in our bucket and automatically be deleted as soon as the age of the object reaches 24 hours. If we were to go to archive only, after 6 days, after the object is there for 6 days. Now remember, this is based off an individual object. So after 6 days that the object is in there, it'll automatically be reclassified and checked into Amazon Glacier archiving storage. So we can name this rule name Finance Archive. And again, it shows our rule target. It's going to apply to all objects in our Finance folder underneath our Linux Academy test bucket. So then we'll go ahead and select Create and Activate Rule. So now we have a rule here. Now keep in mind, we can have multiple rules. We can specify a rule on a prefix. So if we wanted something to apply to our temp folder, we'll say our temp folder needs to just permanently delete everything after 5 days. We don't want that anymore. Let's just go ahead and delete it. So we'll go to Review. We're going to call this Delete Temp Folder. and select Create and Activate. So it'll delete that after 5 days. So now let's go up in versioning and select Enable Versioning. Once you enable versioning on a bucket, you cannot disable versioning on a bucket. The only way to disable versioning is to actually empty the bucket and delete the bucket and recreate it. And that's not technically disabling it. That's just completely throwing everything out and recreating it. We can suspend it so new versions are not created, but all existing versions will exist because we've enabled versioning. So let's demonstrate how versioning works. So when I click on my Linux Academy bucket, up here at the top, we see that we have versions. If I clicked on Show, it's going to show all of our versions. Currently, we only have one version of everything. So if I were to go back and select Hide, and I were to delete my RRS application, oh no, well, what happened? How can I restore this? How is this a backup solution? Well, as an architect, I can come in and select Show. So it's going to show our versions that we have here. We can restore them. So I'm going to demonstrate this by opening a simple text file. And we can say hello world. And I went ahead and saved it as my document. And I'm going to go ahead and upload my document here. So we'll select Start Upload. So now that we have that document there, we'll go back and let's make changes. Hello world again. I'll save that document and then create another version. So I'll select my document, Start Upload. And then what we'll see is that our latest version of my document, if we open it, is going to show our most recent changes. See, it says hello world and hello world again. But if we go under versioning, we can see that it has two versions of it. And we can open the original version and then re-upload it if we wanted. So if we were to upload the original version, we would see that it says just hello world. So that's how versioning works. So now that we have that, so I'm going to go ahead and add a new rule. I went ahead and removed the other buckets, and we're just going to apply this to our entire bucket. So I'll go ahead and select Configure Rule. And you can see here we have action on current version. I can do nothing for the current version, and I can also apply something to previous versions. So if I wanted, I could clean up old versions. I can permanently delete all versions that are greater than 10 days. This is a nice cleanup for our backup policy. Or I can say after 5 days, I want to send the current version to archiving. And after 10 days, all previous versions of that, I want to permanently delete. So this is an archiving and backup policy. And so we'll go ahead and select Review. We'll put in a name. It said rule for the entire bucket because it automatically populated it. And then if you hit Save, we have our bucket. And of course, you don't have to hit Save unless we have our policy here. So we learned how to use versioning. We've also learned how to use lifecycle policies. With these two put together, that's a great backup and archiving solution. All we have to do is worry about getting our data here. And once our data is here, we can manage it as a backup. That makes S3 a great backup solution because we can have versioning. And that makes it great because we can make sure our versions don't get completely out of control because we can send older versions to the trash. We can delete them or send them to archiving. So that concludes it for this lesson. Go ahead and complete this lesson.